Welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. Today it's going to be a quick one hopefully. We're changing the suspension fork. The existing fork's been full of water up to about here, and obviously it's not doing it much good. It is only a very basic Suntour fork and we are replacing it with a very basic zoom fork, but the principle behind this job is going to be the same pretty much for any fork that you're going to do, so let's crack on. So yeah, like I say, it's a pretty basic fork. It's a very basic fork. It's just basically a spring inside here, but this one's dead. I'll put a little clip up for you. So as you can see, this one's got issues. It was full of water basically up to there, so I took the water out, but this seal and it's just knackered basically. So we're just going to fit a new one. It's only a very low budget fork we're putting on, but I say the principle is going to be the same whether it's a sort of £50 fork or a £1,000 fork. The job's pretty much the same really. So just take your caliper off first. Depending if you've got V-brakes or a disc brake, obviously you've got V-brakes, take them off, but it's the same job. This little retaining screw out as well. We're not going to need this now because the new one comes with one obviously. Just spin her out the way like that. And then with the brake itself, just wrap it around the handlebar for now. Just cable tie that there for now. So all we need to do now is take the headset out, drop the fork out, put a new one in. Dead easy. And just put something underneath the fork to stop it falling out completely for now. Just take the weight of it on there. And then we just need to get this headset out. So it's a relatively straightforward job. Most people can do this. There's a couple of bits that might catch you out, but I'll come to those shortly. And out. Just undo these. So I hope you're enjoying these little midweek videos. Like I said, I'm not doing this full time at the moment, so I do struggle a little bit to get one in every week, but where I can, I'll get them done for you. Sort of 15-20 minutes if possible. And then obviously the main videos at the weekend. So if you are finding it helpful and you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button. As everybody always tells you, believe you, it really does help out. So with a bit of luck, this will just drop out now. Just give it a little tap with the rubber mallet on the top. That'll just break any seal you've got on there. Hopefully. A little bit more. Some of these can be very corroded in here, as you will see by some of my other videos, especially the cube one that took me best part of an hour to get this bit off. That one was very easy. Just pull this off. We're going to try and reuse this headset as well, hopefully. Might need some new bearings looking at it, but I think it's just dirty grease. Alright, so this fork should drop out now. I'm just going to raise it up. There we go. So potentially the only challenging part is this one here. You've got a crown race that needs to come off to fit onto the new fork. There's a little slot front and back where you can, if you're careful, get a screwdriver and then just break it loose, and then it just pops off. Or you can use a proper crown race pulling tool. There's not a lot of room to get a tool in there, so I'll try a little screwdriver first, just see if we can get a tiny bit of a gap. So this is a crown race tool. These thinner parts here slide underneath at an angle underneath the race. And as you tighten it, you can just pull it off basically, but you do need a bit of a gap at least to get these in, and there's basically nothing there at the moment, so it's going to be a bit tight. It's unlikely anyone's going to go out and buy a crown race tool just for this one job. The vast majority of people are going to do it like this, so I'll show you what you do. What you're doing is trying to get a little bit of a gap between here. This is a drive-through screwdriver, so it's designed to be whacked. Flip it over. And there's another slot on the other side. Right, so that's pretty much off now. There's enough room in there to get a crown race tool in there, but like I say, I'm going to do it your way, just to show you what you're likely to come across. So just be careful evenly on either side. It's pretty much off now, you'll see. Some of these can be very challenging to get off, don't get me wrong. This one's been pretty straightforward. We can leave that off now, no problem. This fork's going in the bin, so we're not worried about marking this piece up here. Right, that's the crown race off. So that's the race off, and we don't need anything else on this fork now, so that's scrap. So there's a few things you need to check when you're buying a new fork size-wise. The steerer tube is the most important one. Obviously you need to get the right size for your headset. The vast majority these days is 1 1/8, but you can get tapered ones where it's 1/8 at the top and much wider at the bottom, so you need to check that. You'll see on your bike the head tube will be basically flared out at the bottom, but check your bike manufacturer's website where you got it from, and that should give you the specification on there as to what sort of size you need. You obviously need to order the correct length. This is a 27.5 inch wheel, so the fork comes with 27.5. And you need to order the correct brake mount. So this is the universal forks that comes with V-brake mounts, and it also comes with disc brake mounts, which we're going to be using. A lot of the cheaper forks are basically universal like this. These cantilever studs can come off. I'm just going to take these off now. Just a 9mm spanner, these just spin out quite easily normally. There's a couple of rubber bungs that you just put in there now. Like that. Like that. So that's done. There's a zoom fork, apparently got an extended warranty. So now we need to fit the crown race onto this new fork. So just get some grease around here, and then we just need to drive it on basically. The grease just basically aids installation and removal if it ever needs to come off. So it's quite important that you grease this piece. So then you basically need to find a pipe or something that's going to slide over here just to drift this down until it's flat with the top of the steerer. I've got a proper part tool which I'll use, but I think a lot of people use a plastic pipe. Anything that's a good fit basically on there. It shouldn't take that much pressure to get it on, so I'll just get the tool. So this one comes with a few adapters, so it's just a case of finding one that fits the headset cup better than the other one really. I'll stick with this one. And this metal tube basically slides over there, hit it with a hammer, and it drifts it home. Let's just do that. So we're just drifting that on now until you hear the tone stop when it changes. When the tone changes, you know it's bottomed out basically. So that went on very easily. Just make sure it's level all the way around, obviously. Done. So let me just refit that fork into there with the bearings, just so we can get this steerer measured up. You can measure it against the old one really if you want to, but I wouldn't recommend it. Right, just drop that in there loosely for now. This bearing, I'm going to clean these up first. I'll put some new grease on them at least. All the seals that came with it. And the expander, plastic bit there. I've just dropped it all in. Put this bit on. And then we'll keep the existing spaces as they were, the right way up. So we can try and keep it the same height as what it was before for the customer. And we'll just drop this bar on. So then we do need to bottom this out like that onto your stool or floor, whatever you're using. Get a little bit of upward pressure so we're closing this gap and making sure everything's seated properly where it should be. Like that, so that's basically where it's going to be. So what you need to do now is put a mark on this top of the steerer here, remove it all, cut the steerer off sort of 3mm below the mark you've put, and put it together. We're about done. Press down while you're doing that so your mark stays in the right place. I just use a pick to make a mark. If you use a pen, by the time you took it out it's all worn off. And that's that, so we just take all that off again. So you'll see that mark there now. And then just remove all this again. You can leave the bearing in there, that's fine. And just drop the fork back out. So you can see the mark that I put here. That's where we're going to cut. We're going to cut just below this. Don't cut on the mark because you'd be too high. You could add another spacer if you need be, but let's just try and cut this very slightly below that mark. So then what we're going to use is a saw guide here. We'll just clamp the fork in there. You can use an old stem as well if you've got one, just clamp that just below it just as a guide, but anything to give you a straight line really. So you can see the mark I'm putting in here. Well, you probably can't, but I can. So we'll just line that up there. With your hacksaw, put it in there and then aim your hacksaw sort of 3mm below. 2-3mm including the width of the blade. And then you'll be about right, about there. Tighten that down. And then cut it off. And that's that. Take that out. Deburr that with this little tool here. It does the inside. It also does the outside. You just literally run that across there. And that's it, nice and smooth. And we need to fit a new star nut inside the fork as well. Let's just do that. This is a Junior tool for driving those in with. So let's just do this one. So this is basically, this is a guide, and this basically screws into the star nut, and you hit it with a hammer. Once it's started, you can unscrew this piece here, screw that back in, and then just finish driving it home. Piece here will sit inside the fork, hopefully. So you can hear that tone change, that's bottomed out there. Star not installed, so now we can just refit the fork. Right, so minor panic there. I thought I'd not recorded anything then, but I actually have. So all I've done now, just missed a few steps, so going backwards. So there's already grease on here. There's grease in the cup, top and bottom on the bearing. So now we can actually insert the fork because we're cut and the star nut is installed. So just reinsert the fork. Get something underneath it again, just to hold it together basically while you're working on it. Refit your expanders, top cap, and put your spacers on. If you've got logos, make sure they're the right way up. And then this basically will just drop in there and put your stem on. So hopefully you measured twice and cut once, as they say, and this should be exactly the right size. Okay, Looking good. Let's just drop this top cap in now. So I'll show you on this top cap what you're supposed to do properly. Once I get this in a bit, just screw this in until it stops lightly, like that. And then you can take this stool out or whatever you're using. And the fork's not going to go anywhere now. So I have mentioned this many times before in videos, but if you've not seen one before, I'll show you again. This nut here, the amount of bikes I see that have come in where this nut's rounded out because people have been swinging on it so hard, you're doing it so wrong. All you need to do is put a little bit of pressure, look, with one finger, literally pushing that with one finger to there, and then you need to rock your bars side to side and see if you can feel any play in this headset. I can feel a tiny bit of play there, so I'm going to push it that much more. And that play's gone now. And you can see how much effort that took, absolutely none at all. So if you're doing it like this and this and this and this, you're doing it very wrong. Most likely the issue is your fork is too long and this cap here is bottomed out on the fork, so no matter how much you turn it, it's not going to take the play out of the headset. I'll tighten these up and I'll show you what it should look like. But that's not going to be a million miles off there. Tighten these 4mm up, like so. This makes me laugh. It's asking for 5.2 Newton meters. I mean, who's going to measure that? It's on an aluminium, well, it's on a steel steerer now. An aluminium stem, none of it's carbon. 5.2, it can't be 5, it can't be 5.5, it has to be 5.2. Crazy, honestly. Where do they get these figures from? Just getting 5 and we'll make sure it's tight when the wheel's in. 5.2. Obviously I've got a torque wrench, but it's just crazy. Right, so that's in, basically. I'm just going to clean up, because you get a lot of grease spilt out when you do this. I need to clean up cloth. You do go through a lot of rags, unfortunately. You tend to go through stages of clean, not clean, and stages in between where they get used for different jobs. So when you're doing the final wipe down, you need something obviously that's fairly clean. Alright, so that's done. So I'll show you now what this should look like inside. So if you're swinging on this bolt so hard and it's not doing anything, almost certainly your steer is too long. I'll show you what the problem is then. Take this out again. You can take this out and bin it now, you don't need it. All it's doing is putting tension on the headset, it doesn't hold anything together. So it doesn't need to be that tight, it's not holding your handlebars on. It's literally setting pressure on the bearing. This is holding the handlebar on. So take that off and then you should have a tiny gap here, about 2mm is ideal. If you've got this totally flush, the lip on here is going to bottom out on top of that fork and it won't take the slack out of the headset. So you do need a tiny gap like that. About 2 to 3mm, as long as it's above the middle of this bolt, which this obviously is, then you're good to go. If the fork's too long still, you can put another spacer in here, or another spacer on top, to get yourself that gap. But if you don't have a gap, you're going to bottom out, and then you're going to kill this bolt. So now we've already set this headset tension, and the side bolts are tight. Whatever I do on here now is irrelevant, it's not going to do anything. Tightening this is not going to overcome the pressure of these bolts. So literally all we're going to do now is tighten this in snug, so it's not going to fall out basically, that's all. And make sure you get your cap straight as well. So now it's just a case of putting this brake back on. Again, there's a clamp on this fork to go through. It's going to be one of the awkward ones where you've got to take it all the way out to get it in. Some of them you can just spin to the side, some of them you've got to take all the way out like this one, typical. And then just clamp the hose back in there. Actually got shorts on today in the workshop, can you believe it? Pretty warm in the UK at the moment. What is this, middle of June now? Don't know when you'll see this video, but I'm trying to do one a week for your Wednesdays. Alright, that's in there. I won't clamp it, it's just a guide. And then we bolt the caliper back to the fork. So yeah, and it's just a case of clamping this in. Don't do it tight because we've got to centre this on the caliper first. Tektros tend to have good clearance anyway on the pad, so you get away with a bit more space. So they have a bit more clearance on the disc than most brakes, so they're quite good. Tektro makes good stuff, don't get me wrong. So just leave that slack like that until we put the wheel back in. Take this brace out. Drop the wheel back in. Make sure your disc goes in the middle of the caliper, obviously. Also, when you order a fork, make sure you get either quick release or through axle. Forgot to mention that one. You should know all that if you're spending £1,000 on a fork, but there's a lot of variables. And then just tighten that up. So with quick releases, the idea with this, don't keep winding it up. It's on a cam, and press that in until it's tight enough to leave a dent in your hand. So if you're doing it so tight you're bending this lever, then you're doing it wrong again. So we just need to centre this caliper now. I think it's pretty good as it is actually, I can't hear it. I'm going to tighten them down a bit more. Squeeze the brake a few times and see what it's like. Got a tiny rub. Wants to go that way a little bit. Just look through this side, you'll see daylight. You can see where it wants to go. I'm trying not to touch the disc here with my hand, obviously. Right, that's it. And just nip these up finally. I'm done. Bit of grease on there. So last job to make sure your stem is level with the wheel. I already eyeballed it when I was up there, but I'll just check anyway. Do it by eye or you can use a tool. Look how far out I was. I was a bit out, but to be fair, I was 3 foot in the air, so give me a break. Right, let's just straighten this up again and then re-torque it to 5.2 Newton meters. Right, straighten that up now. Look at that, beautiful. Tighten these back up now. 5 and 5. So I'm just going to check that's actually holding it because it's not 5.2. Yep, I ain't going anywhere. Okay, we're done. Right, let's see if they bounce. There we go. No noises anymore. Up and down. You should have heard the other one. Well, you did hear the other one. Okay, there we go. Bouncing up and down with no added water effects. Good. Yes, it's a very basic fork, but the job basically is the same on any fork really. So hope you picked up a few bits and bobs that are useful information there on how to do it, especially making sure you get the top cap right and the pressure on there. That's the key. And yeah, dead easy. So that's all done. I think anyone can do that with a few basic tools. Not really too difficult at all. Very, very basic fork obviously, but the principle is exactly the same whether it's, you know, a £50 fork or a £500 fork. The job's exactly the same. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something, and stay tuned for more Workshop Wednesdays. Thank you very much.